When one's ability to experience life transcends the limitations of the physical, we call it a spiritual process. The physicality of what we are right now, our experience of this is coming to us essentially through the five senses. Everything that happens in your living experiences happens within yourself. But your five senses have no access to this within because they are outward bound. Now, the spiritual process happens when human intelligence recognizes that we are existing without knowing the essential nature of who we are. The seeking that arises within you following this realization is the spiritual process. What is the basis of seeking? If you seek something, first and foremost, you realize that you do not know. When this longing to know arises, seeking follows. In what way is spirituality relevant to leadership? Now, who is a leader? We are looking forward to a leader, not to repeat the past for us. If a leader just functions on the physical and intellectual terms, he is a poor leader because his body and mind are chained to the past. His mind is constantly functioning from past information. We are looking forward to a leader to create something that other people could not perceive. If his perception is limited to the sense organs, he does not see anything new. No new possibilities will arise. In the last century, human beings have done more than what they did in the last 10,000 years. We are hugely empowered. Despite all these, we have been groping in the dark. We will do something today we will regret 25 years later. We are progressing this way because there is no perception of life the way it is. Our whole understanding of life is coming from just logical intellect, which is functioning on limited information. Logical intellect is not instrument enough to perceive the non-physical dimensions of life. Assuming that whatever is not in my knowing or my experience cannot exist is the crown of ignorance. If a leader cannot experience life beyond his body and intellect, he will not create a new possibility for humanity. So, without the spiritual element, a leader is definitely handicapped, whether he is political, economic, or otherwise. A leader is someone who takes a chance on the destiny of a large mass of people. He is a leader because he is capable of organizing and directing situations to the desired goal. But that only happens if a leader has some mastery over himself. It is extremely important for you to remain free of the situation outside you. The reason why people face crisis is not because of morality, values, and ethics. It is simply because the fundamental faculties in their own body, mind, emotions, and energies do not take instructions from them. They are reacting only to external situations. Leadership demands extensive travel, handling of complex situations, and diverse people from diverse backgrounds and cultures. When a human being who has to continuously handle complex situations is not spiritually established, he will get pulled down. The work is not difficult, but we do not know how to manage the systems. Systems can be managed from within if only you have access to what is the source of the body. Spirituality means gaining access to that dimension within you, which is the very source of who you are. This is not about looking out, looking down, looking around. This is about looking inward. Right now, we are trying to handle the well being of mankind, societies, and nations in a very adroit way. When we create well being by chance, we are not taking charge of who we are not taking charge of the basic source of creation within ourselves. We have lost access to that. The journey from poverty to prosperity is a hard journey, whether it is for an individual, society, or a nation. After making that journey, people still do not know well being. We are on the threshold of an economic prosperity where we have the capability for the first time in many generations to move a large mass of people from one level of living to another. I really fear that the way we are handling many things, we may get it up or we may postpone it to the next generation rather than making it happen now. The leadership of the next 10 years will decide what we will do with this. A leadership which is benefit of any spiritual content of perception beyond the limitations of logical intellect cannot manage a situation like this with absolute clarity. It will manage by chance and can fail anytime. No other land, no other culture has been as much work towards human consciousness than Indian culture has. The best acknowledgement of this came from Mark Twain, one of the greatest intellects of the last century, when he said, "Anything that can ever be done either by man or God has been done in this land." In the last century, we broke the sound barrier. The challenge of this century is to break the thought barrier. It is thought that makes the world, that traps us in a cage, and thought that makes us fall so far below our potential as human beings. We need to change the way we think. The Economist says that modern India and its leadership are facing two huge problems. The first one is poverty. 80% of Indians live in extreme poverty. The second one is corruption. Corruption that determines the rule of law, which takes money out of the pockets of the people, which robs the state's infrastructure and wealth, which hinders respect for each other and for higher values. According to Carl Jung, one of the greatest psychologists in the last 50 years, if things go wrong in the world, it is because something is wrong with yourself, something is wrong with the individual. You are not the victim of history or circumstances. You create history, you are responsible for it. This call to give up the victim word is not spirituality. It is spiritual intelligence. It is spiritual intelligence that leadership needs more than spirituality or religion. Leadership needs spiritual intelligence and must stand up against the crowd for what they think is right. Let me define the 12 principles of spiritual intelligence.